Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to talk about new Revolution palette. It is called Forever Flawless Ice Palette. I love this packaging and I love this shade of blue. It's everything and it's also good quality. This palette is cruelty-free and vegan and it contains 18 shades. Among those 18 eyeshadows, we have 2 pressed pigments. And as you can see, shade 5 and 18 are pressed pigments. This palette is mainly green and blue, and it can be a dupe for Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette. So let's open up this beauty. So this is how this palette looks inside. Here we have 8 shimmer shades. Actually, 9. Let's start from Icicle. This is like a green aqua shade. It's really cool. Next we have Immerse. Immerse, it's rose gold. It's really pretty for neutral makeups, for example. Next we have Glacier, which is a really stunning silver shade. Arctic, which can be actually used as also as a matte shade because it's kinda like a satin. It's not that shimmery as, for example, Icicle or Glacier. Next we have Cool. Ocean. Ocean, I think it's also satin shade. It can be used as a matte. Titanic, which is like a dark, really dark silver shade. And Icy. The rest of those shades are matte. I tried all of them and I can say that the first time I swatched them on my hand I was really disappointed, but when I applied them on my eyes I was really shocked. The only, I'm not pleased with only H2O shade and Break because those two are patchy, kinda, in outer corners on my eyes. They look patchy. If you don't apply them on wet concealer. The rest blend really nice and are so pigmented. So I will swatch all of them for you in a second. And then I will show you my looks, which I created with this palette. So let's start the swatch part. And we have Break, which is a dark matte green, a Drench, which is light green, and Icicle. And here we have Break, Drench, and Icicle. Drench is a pastel color and of course it will swatch not that well as those darker colors. Next is Immerse, Beautiful Rose Gold, H2O, and Glass. And here we have Immerse, H2O, which is patchy sometimes, and Glass. Immerse is the most beautiful shade in this palette. So let's go to the second row, and here we have Glacier, Freeze, which is pastel light blue, and Arctic. Glacier, Freeze and Arctic. Stunning shades. Next is Frostbite, which is a matte beige, melt, beautiful green and cool. Just a really pretty shade for the inner corner highlight. As you can see a frostbite because it just melts into my skin tone. And in the last row we have Ocean, beautiful satin blue, Titanic, Icy. And Ocean, Titanic and Icy. Icy is really beautiful, but sometimes I think that it's a little too dark for inner corner highlighter for my skin tone, because I'm pale. And the last three shades are Crystal, Iceberg and Climate. And we have Crystal, Iceberg and Climate. Climate is also melts into my skin tone even more than Frostbite. I will add some more Crystal and Iceberg. Iceberg is also sometimes patchy. And yeah, this is how they look. And now I will show you 5 looks which I have created with this palette. This is the first one. When I have been doing all my looks, I did cut crease first. So on my bare eye, I applied concealer when the cut crease should be. And the first step was to apply shimmer shade in this place. So in the first look I applied Immerse as my shimmer shade in the cut crease. Then I applied Iceberg, this shade, above the cut crease. In the outer corner I applied H2O and Arctic. H2O was patchy, so I applied concealer and then I also added Arctic. I blended Iceberg with Freeze, and on my lower lash line I also blended Iceberg with Freeze. And on the inner corner I applied shade Cool to highlight. And this is the finished look, and you will see it in a video in a second. Now let's move on to the second look, and here it is. In this look I also cut my crease first, and as a shimmer shade I applied Glacier right here, the silver shade. Then I applied Melt at the top. On the outer corner I used Break, which was also patchy, and I had to add concealer and then another layer of Break. I blended the top shade Melt with Drench or Crystal I think it was Crystal. And on the lower lash line, I added a little bit of concealer close to my lower lash line, and I added Titanic, and then I blended Titanic with Melt. But closer to the outer corner, I also used a little bit of Break. And in the inner corner, I applied Cool to highlight. And it was the second look, and you can see it right now. So here is the third look. For this look I used Icicle for the shimmer, then at the top I blended Iceberg, and on top of Iceberg I blended Freeze. Then on the outer corner I used Iceberg together with H2O. On the lower lash line I used concealer close to the lower lash line, and I applied Ocean, and I blended then Ocean with Freeze. And on the inner corner I used either Immerse or Icy, I don't really remember, but it was either Icy or Immerse. Now we have the fourth look. For this look I also cut my crease first, and in this place when I cut my crease I used Freeze and Crystal and I blended them together. First I used Freeze and then I applied Crystal, and those shades close to each other look identical. Or I accidentally blended them together, but they look really close to each other. Then on top of that I applied H2O, and as you can see it is patchy. And then in the inner corner I applied also H2O, but I used concealer. Then on the lower lash line I applied concealer, and then I applied Ocean, and I blended it with Iceberg. On the inner corner, I used Icy, and then I applied Cool on Icy. And this is the finished look. No, not yet, because I also applied concealer when I cut my crease, and I covered it with Ocean. The last look is neutral, and I created it because I wanted to show you that you can also achieve a neutral look with this palette. In this look I used also only 3 shades. First I of course cut my crease and I applied Immerse as my shimmer shade for my entire lid. And then on top of that I applied Climate, and this shade is barely visible on my skin tone. And that's not good. But I applied Climate, and on the lower lash line I also applied Climate. In my inner corner I used Icy. And this is the finished look. So this is the end of the video. I hope you liked watching it. You can subscribe to my channel if you want, and see you guys in my next one. Bye guys!